The airport was loud, a symphony of rolling suitcases, distant announcements, and half-sincere goodbyes. Among the travelers moving with practiced rhythm was Elena Brooks, a woman who looked like she wanted to be invisible. Sunglasses, neat blazer, no luggage except a single carry-on. Everything about her said, business trip. But her eyes told another story. She wasn't running towards something. She was running away. As she stepped onto Flight 927, the late afternoon sunlight spilled through the jet bridge windows, streaking gold across her face. Her ticket read Seat 12A, windows side. She slipped in quietly, head down, earbuds in, letting the hum of boarding chatter fade into white noise. When the captain greeted passengers through the intercom, she barely listened. She had taken this flight not to arrive somewhere, but to leave something behind. As the engines roared to life and the plane began its slow crawl toward the runway, Elena's fingers traced the scar on her wrist, a habit she didn't even notice anymore. A reminder of a night she never wanted to remember. She looked out the window, watching the world shrink beneath her as the aircraft lifted into the clouds. For the first time in months, she exhaled, whispering to herself, "It's over." But fate doesn't respect distance, and secrets have a way of finding new wings. A few rows back, in seat 14C, a man adjusted his jacket, his eyes fixed not on the safety card, not on the view, but on her. When Elena finally turned her head, just a brief glance down the aisle, her breath caught. She didn't recognize his face, not at first. But something about his stare felt like memory. Something she had buried long ago was suddenly staring back at her, 30,000 feet above the world. The man in 14C had the calm composure of someone who'd flown too many times to care about turbulence. Mid-40s, neatly dressed, eyes sharp, not with suspicion, but with knowledge. When the flight attendants began their service, he smiled politely, but his focus never left Elena. She noticed eventually. Every few minutes, her gaze drifted, and there he was, that same unreadable expression, studying her like a puzzle. The moment she caught him watching, he looked away, pretending to study the in-flight magazine. But it wasn't casual. It was deliberate. When the seatbelt sign turned off, Elena got up, needing space, air, anything. She walked toward the restroom at the back, passing his row. As she did, a quiet voice stopped her. "You shouldn't be here, Elena." Her feet froze. Her pulse quickened. Slowly she turned. "I think you've mistaken me for someone else," she said evenly, though her voice trembled slightly. His lips curved faintly. "No," he said. "I never forget a face. Not after what happened in Portland." The name hit her like lightning. Portland. A place she hadn't heard aloud in years. A place tied to the fire, the trial, the night her life shattered. She stumbled past him, locking herself inside the restroom, staring at her reflection in the tiny mirror. The hum of the engines muffled her shaking breath. "How does he know?" she whispered. She thought she'd erased everything, the job, the name, the past. But somehow, the sky had brought it all back. And outside in 14C, the man leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes, as if waiting for the truth to land. The seatbelt sign blinked back on, and the captain's calm voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seats, we're entering a pocket of turbulence." The cabin lights dimmed slightly as the plane rattled. Elena's hands gripped the armrests. Her mind wasn't on the shaking, it was on him. Every vibration of the aircraft felt like the past shaking loose again. The man in 14C didn't move, just kept watching her through the occasional flicker of overhead light. When she finally gathered courage and met his gaze, he mouthed a single word. "Why?" That single question shattered the fragile distance she had built. "Why what?" She wanted to scream, but her throat stayed silent. The flight attendant hurried down the aisle, telling passengers to remain calm, her voice calm but eyes wary. Lightning flashed outside the window, a brief, blinding streak illuminating the man's face. In that flash, Elena remembered him. Not from the trial, not from the papers, but from before, from the night everything changed. He was there. Not as a victim or a stranger. As a witness. as someone who saw her when she made the choice that cost someone their life. The plane jolted suddenly, coffee spilled, a baby cried, and Elena's heart raced so fast she thought she might faint. She squeezed her eyes shut, whispering, "Please, just let me get through this flight." But when she opened them again, the man in 14C was standing, steady despite the shaking, walking slowly toward her row as if the storm outside didn't matter at all. "Ma'am, please return to your seat," a flight attendant warned, gripping a nearby headrest for balance. But he didn't stop. The turbulence had eased slightly, yet the air inside the cabin was electric. He reached her row, bending slightly so no one else could hear. "You left him," he said quietly. Elena's face went pale. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I was there," he replied, voice steady. "I saw you run. I saw you drive away." Her world tilted not from altitude, but from truth breaking through years of denial. The hum of the engines became deafening. She looked around, rows of passengers lost in movies, snacks, and sleep, oblivious to the storm within 2 rows of calm chaos. "Who are you?" she whispered. His answer was simple. "Someone who forgave you before you ever said sorry." Her lips parted, words failing her. "Then why follow me?" she asked. He sat beside her, his tone softer now. "Because I wanted you to forgive yourself." The words struck deeper than any accusation. For a moment neither spoke. The seatbelt sign flicked off again, the plane leveling. Outside, the sunlight filtered through thinning clouds, golden and warm. For the first time, she looked at him, really looked, and realized he wasn't there for vengeance. He was there to return something she lost long ago, peace. The flight entered calm air, cruising steady above the Atlantic. Passengers relaxed, laughter returned, and the clinking of cups replaced the storm's rumble. Elena sat frozen, her reflection faintly visible in the window. "You said you saw me drive away," she whispered. "That night, how did you survive?" He exhaled slowly. "I didn't, not really. Not the way you think." She frowned, confused. "You were in the reports, I was," he interrupted. "But I wasn't supposed to walk away. I should have died in that crash, Elena. You were the last person I saw." Her eyes widened, heart hammering. "So why come back now?" He looked out the window. "Because running doesn't bury guilt. It buries the living." Silence lingered between them. The cabin light softened to a mellow gold as if the day itself was listening. He smiled faintly. "You've punished yourself long enough." Tears slipped down her cheeks, quiet and trembling. She nodded slowly, words trembling on her tongue. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "I know," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "I just needed you to remember who you were before that night." The captain's voice returned, calm and steady. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin our descent shortly. Local time in New York is 6:47 p.m. Passengers stirred, adjusting seats, pulling out phones. Elena wiped her tears quickly, turning to thank the man beside her. But 14C was empty. The seatbelt was fastened neatly, his cup untouched. The flight attendant passed by, and Elena stopped her. "Excuse me, the man who was sitting here, where did he go?" The attendant blinked. "Ma'am, that seat's been empty the whole flight." For a moment, Elena couldn't breathe. She looked down the aisle, no sign of him, no trace. Only her reflection stared back from the window, framed by clouds glowing in the sunset. A quiet peace settled over her chest, one she hadn't felt in years. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." As the plane touched down, wheels screeching softly against the runway, Elena smiled for the first time since Portland. Maybe forgiveness doesn't always come from others. Sometimes it finds you midair, in the space between heaven and earth, disguised as the man in 14C.